hear anything kind of loud and scary coming from the background, it's because there's a thunderstorm happening outside right now. But you know, today's my day off, so duty calls, gotta film this video today, so. Hey guys, my name is Gabby, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm gonna be filming a new adult romance recommendations video, part 3. And yes, I have filmed a new adult romance recommendations video 2 times before. The first one is my most viewed video on this channel, so that's super exciting. And so I like to try to do this video once a year because I do read a lot of new adult romance. It is one of my favorite genres to read, but even I can admit that this genre has a lot of shit in it. So I wanted to recommend you some of my favorite new adult romances that I've read in the last year or so. But I'll put the links in the description for the last 2 videos that I've done. That way, if you're like, why isn't this book mentioned on this list, or why isn't that book, then you can probably check out my previous 2 and it might be mentioned on those. I wanted to mention a little disclaimer that the new adult age range is technically, I believe it's from the age of 18 to 24. That's typically where the characters in a new adult romance fall into those ages, but I'm not 100% positive if all of these characters fall into those ages, but these all read a lot like new adult romances, even if they are a little bit older, maybe. Let's jump right into it, shall we? Yes. The first book I want to recommend to you is The Butterfly Project by Emma Scott. It's an amazing new adult romance that takes place in New York City. It follows this girl named Zella who writes graphic novels and she draws them. She's writing this graphic novel that's kind of inspired by her real life, and her graphic novel hero is about this girl who is able to prevent child abductions from happening, and she goes after child predators in particular, and it's inspired by her own life because her little sister was abducted when she was younger and killed by this child predator. And so her graphic novel is inspired by her true life experience, and then it's about her meeting this guy named Beckett who spent 2 years in prison for armed robbery, and now he's just getting out and he's trying to keep his head above water, and he spends his days being a bike messenger and a busboy part-time. They're both very broke. This is like one of those classic, like, 2 broken characters come together and find hope in each other again. Because of a certain situation, they're forced to move in together because they both don't have enough money for rent on their own, so they're forced to move in together and become roommates, and then it turns into this like very slow burn romance that starts to form between them. And oh my god, you guys, this is like one of my new all-time favorite books. It's just so good, so beautifully written, and Beckett is just such a I have such a soft spot in my heart for those characters that seem so like rough around the edges, but they're actually just like the softest human beings once you get to know them. And just everything about this story is like, oh my god, so good. So highly recommend this one. The second one I have for you is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. This story follows a girl named Stella who has Asperger's, which is very interesting because I've never read a story that has a female lead that has Asperger's before, so that was very interesting and eye-opening for me. Her love interest, Michael, is an escort, and he's half Vietnamese and half Swedish. So there's a ton of different diversity happening in this book, which already makes it super awesome. So basically what's happening is that since she has Asperger's, she kind of struggles with social-related things and sex-related things and everything like that. So she hires Michael as an escort to help her with sexual things because she's always struggled with intimacy. And as you can imagine, it slowly evolves into this really adorable romance. And oh my god, you guys, Stella is just so cute. She's like one of my favorite characters that I've read about this year. She's just so like quirky but also relatable and socially awkward and just like really cute. Like every time he was describing her, I was like, she's so adorable. So yeah, highly recommend this one. It is so adorable. It's the perfect rom-com. The next one I have for you is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is a hella forbidden romance that follows this girl named Jordan who's 19 years old, and then she's dating this guy named Cole who's also 19 years old, and she meets this other guy named Pike who's 38 years old, and they meet at the movies one night and they're unaware that Pike is actually Cole's dad, which is the guy that she's dating. Pike gets a phone call saying that his son has been arrested and he has to go pick him up at the local jail, and then she realizes that that is her boyfriend. So because of Cole's recent arrest, he's forced to move back into his dad's house, and since her and Cole live together, she's also forced to move into his dad's house. And then this like very forbidden, slow but subtle relationship starts to form between Pike and Jordan. Not only is it forbidden, obviously, because like there's a huge age gap there because she's only 19 and he's 38, but also because it's her boyfriend's freaking dad, you know? Oh my god, you guys, Pike has the biggest soft spot in my fucking heart, okay? Like, not only because he's a single father, but because he's like a construction worker and he's described as having like sleeve tattoos, and he's just this very like hard shell of a man on the outside, but he's so sweet and soft on the inside. Like, oh my god. You can tell I obviously have a type. You know, part of the reason why I love this so much is because of the forbidden aspect of it. Like, I'm a sucker for a good forbidden romance, and oh my god, you guys, this one was just so forbidden and so great, and I could not stop reading it. And Jordan is such a sassy as hell female protagonist. Like, I loved her so much. She did not take any shit from the guys, and she was just so inspiring and amazing, and I've loved everything about this book. It was so good. Alright, the next book I have to recommend is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. This is a romance that takes place in Alaska. It follows this girl named Kala who moves from Alaska to Toronto when she was only 2 years old with her mom when her parents were splitting up, and now she's in Toronto and she's 26 years old, and she gets this phone call saying that her dad in Alaska is dying of cancer, and so she wants to go back to Alaska to go and like see her roots, you know, where she's from, and to spend time with her dad before he potentially passes away. Her dad runs this really big airplane pilot company, and her dad's a pilot, and then a romance starts to form between her and one of the other pilots, Jonah, who's kind of a hothead and very temperamental, but also very close to her dad, and he also happens to live right next door to her dad. So, oh my god, you guys, this book was so amazing, and the romance isn't like the biggest part of the book. Like, there is definitely a lot about her coming of age story and discovering who she is because she's in Alaska, and there's also a really beautiful father-daughter story with her and her dad, obviously, but the romance, you guys, it is so good, so steamy. Okay, it's like a classic hate to love romance because they definitely start off like kind of hating each other because he thinks she's just this like preppy girl from Toronto that doesn't really know like how to live in the real world, you know. Oh my god, it's so good. And once the romance, like, it's such a slow burn that once it finally happens, you're just like, yes! Next book I have to recommend to you is my most recent read out of all of these, and that is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. Just so hella cute. It's like the perfect rom-com that gives me like New Girl vibes. Follows this girl named Hazel, who is this extremely quirky, adorable. She is an elementary school teacher from Portland, Oregon, hence why she reminds me of Jessica Day. But yeah, and she's not like quirky in the way that some authors like try and force their characters to be like quirky and cute. Like, she's actually really like adorable, and I just loved her so much in this. And then her love interest Josh is Korean. They meet in college a really long time ago, and she's embarrassed herself so many times in front of him. Like, she just has all these really embarrassing stories from college, and now this takes place 7 years later when they meet again under unusual circumstances. They become instant best friends, and they decide to start double dating and setting each other up on blind dates all the time to try and figure out the perfect match for the other one. And this book is just so cute. This is a classic like friends to lovers romance, and it's just done so well. And, you know, of course Christina Lauren has like the cutest writing, and this is probably one of my all-time favorite books from them. Like, I just absolutely loved it so much, mainly because I loved Hazel and I adored her so hard. So cute. Highly recommend it. The next one I have to recommend to you is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata, and this is the slowest of all of the slow burn romances, okay? Like, the slowest. Follows this guy named Aiden Graves, who is a Canadian vegan NFL player. Like, talk about the most unique character ever, right? I mean, he's Canadian, he's vegan, and he's an NFL player. And then it follows his love interest Vanessa, who's his personal assistant of over 2 years when she decides to quit because he's an asshole and she hates working for him and she's just done with this job. And then he reaches out to her a few months after she quit to help him with something that I'm not going to spoil you for because it's kind of a spoiler, like low-key. This is definitely a hate to love romance as well as like a very slow burn romance. This was just the cutest, okay, because I love how Aiden is described as this really huge person. Like, you know, he's a massive NFL player. He's just a big human being, kind of like, I just imagine like Henry Cavill, you know, like he's giant and huge. And then he describes Vanessa as this tiny little, you know, adorable. So I just kept picturing them like so cute, like she's so small and he's so big. I loved everything about this book. I mean, Aiden is definitely one of those characters that took a long time to grow on me, but like once he did, oh my god, I was swooning so hard for these two, and I just like loved every scene they had together. I was like, oh my god, yes. Highly recommend this one, especially if you're into like sports romances and hate to love romances and anything like that. Oh, check this one out. And if you appreciate a slow burn, that's the slowest of all of the burns. So yeah. The next one I have to recommend is Forever Right Now by Emma Scott, and this one follows this girl named Darlene, who is actually Beckett's roommate from the Butterfly Project. It follows Darlene, who was a previous drug addict slash stripper, and now she's moving to San Francisco. She's moving from New York to San Francisco to like have a clean slate, and she meets this guy there named Sawyer, who is a future lawyer. He's going to law school, and he has a daughter who I believe is like 5-ish years old. They meet because they're new neighbors. Like, I think she lives on the floor above him now. It was so cute, and I will say, this one wasn't as good as the Butterfly Project in my opinion, but just because the Butterfly Project is like one of my favorites ever. But this one was also really cute. Next one I have to recommend to you is Blind Kiss by Renee Carlino. This follows this woman named Penny, who's a dancer, and this guy named Gavin, who works on cars. And this book spans a 14-year period, so it follows them back in the day when they met in college, and they met during the psychological study of like blindly kissing somebody. So basically they set you up with a stranger and you were both blindfolded, and they had you kiss to see if there was any attraction there without knowing what the other person looks like. So after they both participated in this study, they became best friends afterwards, and then she sort of friend-zoned him really hard. It's flashing back and forth between 14 years later when she's married to another guy and has a kid with another guy, but they're still in touch, and you're trying to figure out what happened and how he got friend-zoned so hard and why they were never together. Beautiful and sad, and it kind of reminds me of Before We Were Strangers by this author, so I think especially if you liked Before We Were Strangers, I think you would really like this one too. And I just felt a lot for these characters by the end of this book. Like, towards the beginning of this, I was like, oh god, it's so like insta friends, insta lovey, you know, whatever, but then by the end of this, I was like crying, and I was like, this is amazing. So definitely give this one a shot. The next one I have to recommend is Roomies by Christina Lauren, and so this one follows this girl named Helen who works in Broadway theater in New York City with her 2 gay uncles that own it. And then it follows this guy named Calvin, who's an Irish musician, and he's somebody that she sees performing on the streets, and then he gets the lead role in a play that's on her Broadway thing with her uncles. He gets the lead role in a play, and after he gets the lead role, they realize that he's an illegal immigrant in the United States. She offers to marry him so that he can stay in the States. And then it's that amazing trope of somebody marrying someone just because they're American so they can stay in the country, and I just really like love that trope for some reason. This book was really cute, and I especially liked this book because Holland was such an amazing, relatable main character to me, because she's a want-to-be author struggling to write her first book, and I just relate so much to her because of that. And yeah, she's the main reason why I highly recommend this one, and this one's just really cute and adorable. The last recommendation I have for you is From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata, and this is another Mariana Zapata. I put the other one first because I would recommend The Wall of Winnipeg and Me over this one, but this one is also really cute. So this one follows this guy named Ivan, who's this like world-famous ice skater, and then it follows this girl named Jasmine, who's also a figure skater. She just doesn't have as much cred as him, and she doesn't have the best reputation like he does. He loses his partner, and so he needs a new partner, and they pick her to have as his new partner for the season, for only 1 season though. This is a classic like hate to love romance as well. They've always been like picking on each other through the years, and they've had this really cute bantery relationship. Yeah, so then because they're partners, they have to start doing all these like crazy things together, and obviously becoming more intimate just because of the figure skating poses that they have to do and stuff. Personally, like their friendship even more than I liked their eventual romance. I don't know, like I loved this story, and I know tons of people love the hell out of this book, and this book wasn't my like absolute favorite. Like I ended up giving this one like 3.5 out of 5 stars, but it was still really cute, and I would still recommend it to people looking for that cute hate to love romance. I mean, a lot of people were comparing this one to The Hating Game, which I can see, but I don't personally think it's like The Hating Game, because The Hating Game is like literally one of my favorites ever. But this one was still really cute, and I did like the ice skating aspect of it, so if you're into that, like another sporty type romance too, then I also do think this one would be right up your alley. Those are all of my official recommendations. I also did want to mention this book, The Light We Lost by Jill Santapalo. I know this one technically isn't a new adult romance. This one's more of like an adult romance because this one spans decades. Like it almost spans an entire lifetime. But this one is also really great if you're a romance fan. I just wanted to throw this out there since you're watching. And this one is a really beautiful romance. It takes place in New York City over a long period of time. It follows this girl named Lucy who is working as a producer on a TV show, and then it follows this guy Gabriel who is a photographer. He eventually wants to go overseas after 9/11 to take pictures in Afghanistan. And so that's kind of like what this story is about, and it's just so beautiful, you guys, and I cried like a little bitch when I read this book. So if you like romance, I would say you should check this one out. Those are all of the recommendations that I have for today. So let me know, have you read any of these books that I just recommended? And if you did, what are your thoughts on them? If you have any recommendations that are somewhat similar to some of these, let me know so I can check them out too. And thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you guys next time.